Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today, because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe you.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. Welcome, everybody, to a Monday edition of HomeFront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Gunny, how are you, sir?
Tired. Friggin' tired. I'm good, man. We made a trip down to Fort Campbell this morning and then delivered the Mogadishu Mile bottles to the guys that came in to help with the blend. So they all have received their bottles. And then, a couple of the guys received bottles for other guys that couldn't make it over to Campbell because of, work or whatever. So they'll receive their bottles here in the upcoming week. And then looking at the schedule for me, out of town this weekend, but I'll be back for Monday show. Out of town next weekend, but I'll be back for Monday show. And then that following weekend, I'm gone, but I'll be back for Monday. So the next 3 Sundays, you're on your own unless
I'm solo.
Yeah, unless Candace is feeling better and she jumps on, or if you pull somebody else in, to give you a little bit of reprieve and a break from just you doing it yourself, right? Nobody likes to hear you run your suck the entire time,
right?
Just like they don't like me, hearing me run my suck. So, but yeah, no. And of course, we got Tip of the Spear Wednesday, so I'll be here for that. Finally, after a 3-month break for me on that, for traveling to Japan and wherever else I traveled to. So yeah, it's getting to be that time of year that everybody on here is going to see less and less of me until probably November timeframe.
Yeah.
But whenever I can, I'll log in. I mean, December, we take time off anyway. So that couple weeks around Christmas when I'm in Hawaii, no one's going to miss me because we're not going to be having a show anyway. So
yeah, we'll have recorded shows. Hopefully, we'll have recorded shows.
How about you? I mean, how'd you deal with the heat today?
Oh man, let me tell you. When I woke up this morning at 06, got up, took a shower, walked out the door at 6:15, and started sweating. I was like, today's going to be a bad day.
So you felt like you were back in Haiti in 99 again.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, mother trucker. So got in the truck, turned the air conditioner on. And it's pretty bad when you turn your air conditioner on and it starts like making the condensation on the inside of the windows. I was like, son of a biscuit. So I had to roll with the windows cracked down to keep the humidity and shit out of the truck so it didn't mess up the windows inside. But and then I got to work and got busy, man, and literally stepped out of the truck and started sweating from as soon as you stepped out of the truck. I was just I was going to work a little bit over today just to make some overtime, at least an hour. And at 2:30, 3 o'clock, I was like, no, it's time for me to go home. Yeah. So I got up.
It's time for Willis to get in some AC.
Yeah. So I got up this morning, took a shower, drove after doing my work for the day. I drove home, took a shower, and now I'm sitting in the AC. Luckily, it's not raining no more in the basement. It kind of
equaled out a little bit. Yeah.
There's still a few pockets up here on the ductwork that there's some big drops waiting to drop, but they're over that way a little bit. So
they're not going to be hitting the keyboard and the soundboard tonight. You'll be all right.
Yeah, I think I'll be all right tonight. So, but no, man, I'm super excited. For one, you're getting super busy with.
Oh, so you're excited that I'm getting super busy and I'm not going to be here very often? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is because I know it's something that you thoroughly enjoy doing, and it's part of your recovery, and it helps you deal with your day-to-day demons and stuff like that when you're busy doing something that you thoroughly enjoy doing. That's like doing the bottle release for Warrior Honor Cruise or the Moog Mile bottle or the Team Fast Track bottle that's coming up.
Dude, I can't tell you how excited I am for that one. The other ones, we do Mogadishu Mile every year with Jay Mattingly, and we're extremely grateful for that. And then, I got the Warrior Honor Cruise guys hooked up with them this year, and we did that one. They all came, the whole board came in, and they did the blend. But that team one, man, I tell you, that's like, again, I said it yesterday. I said it, last week after we did the blend, that it's been 2 years in the making to get this one to happen. And the organizations that are going to be able to get a jump now, because we're going to be able to help offset that cost for them. I'm excited for those organizations, but also, the 30 plus teammates that are on the team that now has something tangible other than the team to call their own. And it was the blend was put together by the steering committee. It was put together by the members of the team. So maybe moving forward next year or the year after, depending on how that partnership works with J Matt, maybe I involve other teammates that are going above and beyond and doing a lot of give back stuff in the name of the team. And so we'll just see what that looks like. But that one, dude, July 26th can't get here soon enough. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm excited to go up there again and set up. And I think we're going to set up differently this time. I think we'll turn the camera a little bit more so they can get the tasting room area as well, plus the people behind us. So I think the way we had it set up was good because it got people coming in the front door and people at the counter and all of that. But I definitely want to get it turned a little bit to the tasting room so people can see the aesthetics of the room. But it'll be another great episode live from there. For sure. Hopefully I'll have a different laptop by then, and we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. It's quite a bit away, but
and you won't have a graduation party that you have to rush back to.
Right. Yeah. Not until next year. But we need to get with Todd and have him on the show again. Have him and J Matt on the show, and for sure. But tonight, man, we got a special guest coming on tonight. He is one of the co-founders of the VET S.O.S podcast. The website is going to be scrolling across the bottom of the screen here. It's VETSOSpodcast.com. We got Mr. Shawn. He's going to come on here in just a few minutes. And Shawn, let's get up here. He is the founder and co-host of the VET S.O.S podcast. The show features information and resources about the veteran support organizations and key personnel in the veteran support community. With a passion for helping others, he started VET S.O.S to provide a lifeline to veterans, transitioning service members, and military spouses. So if you're transitioning out of the military, he's a lifeline for that. If you're a veteran, he's a lifeline for that. And if you're a military spouse, there's a lifeline for that. So he is an Army veteran, so we won't hold that against him, will we, Gunny?
Nah, I got a bunch of Army stuff on the wall here somewhere. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
It might be in the other room. I might keep it off camera.
So he did over 20 years he has over 20 years of experience in it as an intelligence professional, senior non-commissioned officer. Anyway, we'll let him tell his story.
Yeah, I mean, why do we always ruin it for the guests, right? We expect, and then you ask them, hey, tell us a little about yourself, and you already told them the whole friggin' story of the person that we have as a guest.
I know, I'm not telling.
So we got to give them a little bit of uplift too, and let them brag on themselves. And we know veterans don't like to talk about themselves to begin with, right? So we kind of have to force them to sometimes.
Yeah, let's do that. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Shawn Welsh up to the stage.
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
Doing well. You know me, I get a little stage fright and scared to talk to people. So,
well, thank you for taking your time out of your busy day to come out and hang out with HomeFront Sitrep here, and the people here of HomeFront Sitrep, our faithful watchers and listeners. If you don't mind, introduce yourself to the world of HomeFront Sitrep.
I thought you did a pretty good job, really.
Right?
Oh man! Well, first of all, guys, thanks for having me on. It's such an honor. You guys have such an amazing show, it's so fun to listen to you and hear the conversations, and it really is some thought-provoking stuff too. And I just love the fact that the chance to be around other veterans wanting to still give back is just amazing. So thank you for having me on. So yeah, like you said, I'm retired Army. Funny story though for you, Gunny. I actually got cussed out by a Marine. What E6 is what? Staff Sergeant Marine?
Staff Sergeant, yeah.
Staff Sergeant, yeah.
So I was assigned to Army North, and we were doing the event for the Republican National Convention when it was in Tampa, and we had to go to Marfor North down in New Orleans, and they couldn't figure out how to put E7 Sergeant First Class in the thing, so they labeled me as a gunny.
Yeah.
And this staff sergeant, you ain't no bleeping gunny. I'm like, I didn't say I was a gunny, man.
Yeah.
I know you guys take it serious. I'm
For
more
sure.
like Bill Murray in Stripes. Come on now. So 20 years in the Army, did intel my entire career. At times it was definitely a love-hate relationship. I'm not going to lie about that, but all in all, loved my service, loved serving troops, leading troops, working through that whole thing. I mean, it's when you get the opportunity to lead troops in any dynamic, it's life-changing. And the fact that you can completely impact their lives in so many different ways, and hopefully for the positive, right? So it's one of those things where there's some things I got to do in the military that I never would have had the opportunity outside the military. I just will forever be grateful for that. And I've been lucky enough to be married for 24 years to the same woman we met in college, and she stuck by me through it all. So I picked a good one, I think, and definitely married above my weight belt. But one of those things where she's blessed me with two boys. One's in college now, one's in high school, so I get a little bit of both dynamics there, and next year I'll have a house full of drivers and a lot of insurance bills. So it's not going to be that fun. But all in all, we're retired in Florida and absolutely loving it. And I saw the thing pop across, go Navy. Just to be fair, my dad was career Navy. I grew up. We used to go to the Army Navy game every year, so I grew up rooting for Navy. And of course, Army pretty much won every year that when I was little. And then I joined the Army, and the Navy started winning every year. So I guess I'm the bad luck. I don't know, but all in all,
I will tell you, I'm bad luck for Navy. So we jump every Navy home game. And, with doing that, they have given us tickets to the Army Navy game on the sidelines with Navy. Every single game that I've been to, friggin' Army has won. So you take the past 8 years of the games that Army have won, I've been at them. So I will not go back again because I'm sick of friggin' Army winning in my face.
I think they'd stop giving you tickets at some point and say, look,
right.
We were fine before you started showing up.
Exactly. I mean, they were, I think, 13 games in a row, and then I went, and it was Army wins. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's just such an amazing game. It didn't used to be very good football. Now it's actually some good football to watch too. But I remember as a kid going, and that was some of my happiest moments as a child. Yeah. Going to the game with Dad, and I'm looking forward to because we were outside Philly, so we always went when the game was in Philly. So I'm looking forward. I think it's 27. It's going back to Philly. I'm planning on taking the boys up there so they can actually go experience it, and just want to see it again, man. There's something about that game, that whole thing.
I think the pomp and circumstance, right, that happens pre-game that unless you're there, you truly don't get to see the marching on of the cadets, the marching on of the midshipmen, the prisoner exchange, there's just so much. And then even after the game, right, and everybody's like, oh, sing second. But both teams come together and they sing each other's, song. And it's like, dude, you don't get this anywhere else, right? And then those men are going out to be future leaders of the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Army. And, you when you go to that game, that those branches are in good hands because of where they're coming from and the schools that they're attending, right? So it's just everything. And then, of course, the game itself, right? I was in Philly during that whiteout condition when Army wore the white uniform. I'm like, oh, this is stupid. I couldn't even see the receiver 5 yards from me. How the heck is the quarterback seeing him, or how is the defender going to see him? So yeah, it's awesome, man. It is. If you've never been, you need to go. It's just one of those things that is a must do in your lifetime for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the whole thing. Just man.
Yeah. Hey, so Gunny, we can get press passes through Heroes Media Group and go up there and sit in the press box. So depending on the weather, because I know Adam goes to every home game or the Army Navy game every year, and he gets passes and stuff like that. And I think Rich gets them as well from the Misfit Nation, who's in here in the chat right now. He said the Battle of Bands before the game.
Yeah. Even there's stuff happening in the parking lot too between the cadets and the midshipmen, and there's just college game day going and building up the game, and there's just that whole day from the time that the parking lot opens, not even the gates, from the time the parking lot opens to the time the parking lot closes. It's just an atmosphere like no other. Yep. And I've been to Daytona, I've been to the Indy 500, I've been to the Brickyard, I've been to big games, but nothing like that. You go to a game in Philly and you're wearing the opposing team, you might get hit with a full beer can. But if you're there during Army Navy, it's a complete different atmosphere, man. I can't explain it. It's just there's just so much pride for service. And it doesn't matter. I walk around with a Marine Corps shirt and everybody just kind of looks at me. I'm like,
you lost.
That's the only time that I will claim Navy,
Right.
But honestly, it's a great game, and like you said, Shawn, the game itself over the past probably 10 to 15 years has gotten better between the two services, right? And I think it's moving into conference play, and it has made them elevate their game.
Yeah.
But enough about Army Navy and that. But I mean, we got off on the tangent. But yeah, I mean, you brought it up, Shawn. You brought it up.
I'm scared to answer questions. I'm trying to deflect.
So let's talk about the VET S.O.S podcast. How did you come up? Well, for one, how did you get into podcasting? And then how did you come up with the idea for the VET S.O.S podcast?
So, truth be told, it all started with no. I had a mentor who was a civilian, never served. He had a podcast out in Texas, and his partner happened to be a veteran. I didn't know it at the time, and I was in transition out of the military. I just started transition. I was doing a lot of videos on LinkedIn. I had attended their transition course, which had nothing to do with the military. It was just something that a buddy of mine did. So I decided to try it. And ultimately these guys became mentors of mine. And so he called me one day pitching, hey man, you got to start a podcast. Nope. No, I don't. It wasn't anywhere on my radar. I knew I didn't have to do one. And, he kept after me, man. He kept going and going, and probably about 3 months of this, and finally, all right, dude, we'll try it. I mean, what the heck? I told myself I was going to try new things and transition, so we decided to move forward. So it turns out that his co-host Mark is a veteran, so Mark came on board to be my co-founder and original co-host, and so he stuck with me for a year to get me going, and that's basically how it started. And then from there, I've been blessed to bring on mentors that I've had during my transition to be my other co-host. So Eric was season 2 and 3. So the second year, and then Keith is my current co-host, and he was a mentor of mine as well. So it's just been a blessing to have, these guys who helped me through my transition continue to help others with their transition.
So when all right, so you got the podcast up and running, you're trying to figure out your niche.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, so like with HomeFront Sitrep, our initial niche was highlighting veteran service organizations, the mom and pops that still care about veterans and willing to work with other veteran service organizations. That was our niche. Now, granted, over the course of 2.5 years, it has changed. We brought in authors like Frank DeMyth, who's here. We brought in Betsy Ross, who her books are right there, the Fight series there. And we brought in veteran comedians, veteran singers. So, our niche has changed over the course of 2.5 years. So when you started the VET S.O.S podcast, and what was your original niche and how has it evolved over the course of the time?
That's a fantastic question. So I didn't know what we were going to do. So we kicked around ideas for a while, and ultimately, like I said, I was in transition, and the whole thing of, there's 40,000 transition or veteran service support organizations at that time, and the government doesn't tell us about any of them. So I'm like, well, maybe that's what we do. Maybe we start talking, because I'm doing a bunch of programs, I'm meeting people. Maybe we do that. And so that's kind of where we came up with the idea to do the military transition space. And if you ask people, I can be a little bullheaded. So I've been really trying hard to stay within that niche, because there's a ton of guests that I could bring on the show, but to me, they just don't fit what we do. Right. And so, I think we've done a good job about staying in the military transition space, but over time, we've broadened it a little bit to understand that it's not just military transition, because coming out of the service, yes, it's a huge transition, but once we're out, we continue to go through transitions. Yeah. And one of my favorite interviews we did, and one of my favorite organizations out there, is Veterans Last Patrol. And they do ceremonies for veterans in hospice. So essentially your final transition, if you will. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, so there's a lot more here we could actually talk about, because we go through job changes, we go through life changes, so what other services are out there that we could use as veterans? And so that's kind of how we've changed. And then we've also decided to expand to give ourselves easier ways to expand. So we started with the regular transition show. And then at the same time, we launched, about 1.5 years in, almost 2 years, we launched the Entrepreneurial show for veteran and veteran spouses. And the whole goal of that was for them to come on and talk about their entrepreneurial journey to help educate the next group of entrepreneurs coming out of the service. And then the educational resource show, which focuses primarily on those directors on campus in the veteran programs, but also those organizations like Act Now Education that's helping people pursue education. And the reason we chose those two is because entrepreneurship and education are two of the biggest pathways we take in transition. So cool. So we've been running 3 shows now for, about for the last year or so, almost. We've had 3 shows going, and then we actually have our 4th show getting ready to launch on the 5th of July. It's called The Scoop, and this is going to be our variety show. So this is where I'm going to be able to put people that don't really fit the military transition, but maybe they do. So it gives us some freedom to do some things. And we've started with interviewing authors who have written books. We started with the transition books, and so we got about seven interviews recorded already, and we're expanding it a little bit to veteran authors. Where we're looking to do some panel discussions and some things like that. So, we have some ideas to talk to some of the veteran comedians and things like that we want to do. So that's kind of how we've grown, and we're working on 2 additional shows. So ultimately, we'll wind up having 6 shows running. And I've been truly blessed that I have 7 different co-hosts that want to be a part of this.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, because I'll be divorced if I try to do all the shows.
I've
already been told.
Yeah. So we started out doing 1 a week, and then I changed it to 2 a week. So Sunday, Monday, and then I had two veterans that had a podcast, but they wanted to get into the veteran realm. And I was like, all right, you can do our Tuesday, Thursdays. Well, it got to the point where I was doing Tuesdays and Thursdays as well, and my wife was like, look, you need to go back down to 2 a week, or we're getting a divorce. So yeah, I'm always looking to expand, because there's so many different veteran nonprofits out there that we can highlight, and just doing 2 a week just sometimes feels like it's not enough. And for me, what keeps me up at night is missing that one veteran, missing that one veteran. So that's what keeps me up. So if I can find some dedicated people that will have the passion that I have or Sam has for HomeFront Sitrep, that I could say, all right, well, I'm going to give you full control of Tuesday, Thursdays. You schedule your own guest and make your own calendar for that. Then I'll gladly let them take it and run, with the HomeFront Sitrep brand. Now we did start the Unapologetic Veteran podcast, which is it's a no holds bar. So I got 2 guys, Josh, who's a Marine Corps veteran, and Stalls, who's a Army medic. They run the Unapologetic, and they're gonna leave no stones unturned. So if they find out somebody that is out there saying they're a Marine, and come to find out they're a civilian, they're going to call them out. They're going to leave no stones unturned.
That'll be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
If they're a nonprofit and they're looking at their 990s and the money's not going where it says it's going, then they're going to call them out on it. So that's kind of the whole mission of the Unapologetic Veteran podcast, is that. So it's super cool that there's so many different avenues that we can go as podcasters. We could like we talk with nonprofits and veteran authors and business owners and comedians and singers, and we've built this network with other veteran podcasters like yourself and Triple Threat and Misfit Nation and Conversations with a Vet and The Oath We Took. There's just so many of them that we've built this network with. It's amazing that, like, I can tell you right now, in the 2.5 years that we've been doing this, the guests that I've had on my show have only a handful or more have been on other shows, and it's like, hey, I need to get these people on your show or your show, because their story needs to get out there. Like Frank DeMith right here. He's a veteran author. He's an Army veteran. He was working at the Pentagon and helped create the interpreter program for the Army. He wrote a book. He wrote a book called Of Vital Interest. He's got another book getting ready to come out in a couple weeks. And then you got Mr. William Stevens, who's an Army veteran who wrote The Broken Mirror. which is helping veterans transition to civilian lifestyle. And he travels the country in his RV. So it's super cool, and it's like, man, I love doing the podcast. For one, it's my therapy, and I'm sure it's therapy for you when you get to talk to other like-minded veterans like yourself, and you're helping veterans transition from, or not veterans, but you're helping service members transition from the military to veteran lifestyle. So I think it's super cool what you guys do.
And I mean, a couple of things you brought up there that I think is important in the fact that, like, I've had opportunities to be on other shows, but they wanted to do one-on-ones, which is cool. But if they didn't fit the transition thing, I didn't feel there was anything I could do with them. So now with the Scoop coming online, that gives me an avenue to where we can bring people on and start to, do a little bit more with other podcasts and things like that. If they don't fit like the true transition thing. And then,
right.
I love the sharing of guests. There's a handful of podcasters that I've talked to through the years that, I'll pass people to them, and, or someone will contact me with an idea, and I'm like, that's not me at all, but hey, let me connect you to this guy. And, just trying to help them get some exposure. And, like those authors you just named, have them reach out to me, man. We got this show going now, and I'm telling you, my host on that one is fire, man. That dude, he's got so much personality. He has a blast with this stuff. So right. I'm really excited to get this one released. And, I think, like you said, getting the message out so that every veteran hears it. That, to me, that's all this has ever been about. And I think that's the senior non-commissioned officer. You take care of the troops, so that's, to me, and all my co-hosts have been the same way. We just want to help and share. We're not in this for money. This is a passion project. Now, we are creating it into a nonprofit for, a whole bunch of different reasons we can go over later. But, to me, it's not about money at all. It never was. And I have a good job. I've been blessed in that sense. So this is a way that I get to give back and continue to serve. And, man, aside from some of the challenges and getting the guest information ahead of time, I love podcasting. That sometimes the guests, help us out a little bit. Give us the stuff in a timely manner. That's all I ask.
I think I sent you my bio and stuff for when I join your show. I think I come up in July, right? Or is it? I'll have to look again. But if I haven't, I'll send it to you.
If you're in July, you should have gotten an email from me already.
I did get an email from you.
Okay.
I think I'll have to go back and look. Because you know how it is doing this. You're right, scheduling. So I'm I say one man show because I'm the one that does most of the scheduling and stuff like that.
I'm just here for the crappie.
You're the pretty face, huh?
Yeah,
right.
He's
if I'm the pretty face, we're in trouble.
But
I got you.
It does get really, really. Some things get lost in translation because like yesterday or the day before, I answered 15 emails from the weekend, and I'm like, man, trying to answer back. And we got this veteran author from Ireland. He's a U.S. citizen. He now lives in Ireland. He wrote a book. He reached out, said, hey, I want to be on your show. Well, coordinating when we go live, it's midnight his time when we go live. So we got to make sure, he's able to do that and stuff like that. And it's just trying to get everything coordinated. And sometimes I wish I had an assistant, an intern, because I'm not paying anybody, but an intern because we don't make no money. Because I'm like you. For me, if this podcast reaches however many veterans it reaches, I don't care if it makes one penny. So, because I got a good job, my wife's got a good job, and if it does make money, as long as it covers enough to pay for itself, that's all I care about. Where it's not coming out of my wife's pocket because my money is her money, and she's like, "You're spending too much money," and I'm like, ugh. So, if the podcast can make, say, $300 a month to pay for all the expenses that goes on with the podcast monthly, then I'd be happy. I wouldn't even worry about it. But I love it, and I love what you guys do. I wish I had known about. Well, you wasn't around when I got out in 2004. Because there was no such thing as transition services when I got out.
Let me just. I want to help you out here. I enlisted in 2003.
Dang. You just made me feel even older. Gunny.
Now, granted, I did enlist at 28. Okay, so I'm not that young.
So
I just turned 50.
Young. Okay. Well, okay. So you are older than me, but you enlisted well after I did. Okay.
Just a few years.
Just a few years. Oh hell! Fuck.
I mean, I had guys that reported to me from the School of Infantry that were 3, 4, 5 years older than me. I'm like, old man, what took you so long? You can't talk to me like that. Well, PFC.
Yes, I can.
Corporal says I can. Corporal says I can. But we had guys that had, did 6, 8 years in the Army, and they're like, oh, I want to try this Marine thing out. Not realizing they have to go back through boot camp and they're going to be a private or a PFC.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, why? Why would you do that to yourself first and foremost? And then, we had Skinner. Skinner was, we called him the grand old man of Paris Island. I think he was 28, 29, trying to go through boot camp and breaking himself every cycle. And he finally graduated with us. I think he went through like 6 cycles, before he actually graduated. But young guys make me smile. My body doesn't feel young.
No, my body doesn't either. But yeah, Skinner, man, I forgot about that old dude because he was
like that big too, man. He was
like 6.
I think so. Yeah. He was like 6'4", 6'5", built like a freaking string bean, and he kept getting stress fractures during the Crucible the week before graduation, and he would get stress fractures and he'd get recycled back. And finally, I mean, I can talk about it now because it's been almost 30 years. Finally, we're coming back from the Crucible, and I was beside him, and I had him resting on my shoulder, and the guy beside me had him resting on his shoulder, and we basically carried him the last like 4 miles of the march. And, he finally graduated, and he's like, I don't think I was ever going to get off this damn island. But, hey, you got to carry the load, man. I'll help you carry it.
Yeah. Oh hell!
But no, I mean, I was medically retired in 11, so there was SEPs and TAPs, right? And then there was a pre-retirement seminar thing that they sent me to. It was all useless information, It's not 1500 anymore; it's 3 p.m. Bro, I think I can figure that out. But when you punch your freaking time clock, it tells me it's 1500, not 3 p.m.
Yeah.
So you're wrong. First and foremost, you're damn wrong because you have no idea what's happening out in the civilian sector. But to have something to go to listen to about some of the other guys' transitions and whether it was easy for them, whether it was hard for them, whether you were a career, service member, whether you did your 4 and got out, and the things that were being taught then compared to what's being taught now. I mean, I wish that there was something back then when I retired, because from the time that my paperwork came back to the time they said, you're gone, was 2 weeks. So after 14 plus years, I had 2 weeks to transition. Right. So how can I prepare for the outside military life with only having 2 weeks, having led, trained, mentored Marines for 14 plus years? And now they're like, you've had 30 plus surgeries. See you later. Bye. Yep. So it was hard. And at times it still is, I look back and see some of the guys that either I put in the Marine Corps or that I served with, and they're master gunnies or they're chief warrant officer 3s as a Marine gunner or sergeant majors, and I'm like, God, had I been able to stay in, where would I be? And running into the most recent past commandant was one of my battalion commanders, and I'm like, oh man, am I that old? Really?
Yeah,
am I really there? I mean, and I just said, I just went over, 28 years ago is when when Willis and I both went to boot camp. And I know Frank's going to laugh about it because he's a little bit older than us. But, still, you don't think about that, right? Until you think about the date and you're like, man, that was almost 30 years ago. Where did that time go? Right. And
yeah,
it's crazy to think that it's been that long. And then I look at my kids, and next week my oldest is 19. It's like, I'm not that old, but in reality, it's there. But yeah, to have something, whether it's your podcast about the transition, or this podcast talking about the other nonprofits that are out there, or like Betsy's books that are, they talk about instances that happen, that happen in service, because it's a fact-based fiction novel, right? And it's like, but when you read the book, or in my case, listen to the book, there's situations like that, right? So having a platform like this, or like your podcast to go to be like, I'm not alone. There are other people experiencing this. This is what they're doing. Let me try that, right? Because you have to find what works for you. What worked for Shawn may not work for Sam. What worked for Sam may not work for Willis, and vice versa. So you have to find your niche. You have to find what works for you, and what gives you your release, what gives you your solace. And I tell it all the time. Sometimes you just have to follow your passion. Your passion will give you your purpose at the end of the day.
Yeah. So we actually talked with KY Valor. Have you heard of them before? KY Valor?
Yeah, they've been on the show.
And we've also talked. Now they travel to bases, and they talk to service members who's getting ready to transition out, and they help them do resumes and stuff like that. And they also try to entice them to move to Kentucky for jobs within Kentucky. Then you got Mission Wisconsin, who does the same thing. And then you got InVets, which is Indiana Vets. They do the same thing. And so I don't know if you've had them on your show or not.
All three of them. Yep.
All three of them. All right. I was gonna say, if you hadn't, I'll reach out to them. But
fantastic. And I love the state level organizations. That to me, it's almost like grassroots. Like they care so much about not only their state, but also the veterans, and taking care of the veterans in the state, man. Oh, I love talking to those organizations.
Yeah, I follow KY Valor pretty frequently, and I talk to them pretty regularly because for one, I'm outside of Fort Knox. I mean, I'm 30 minutes from Fort Knox, Sam, and it's fun to watch them go and travel to Fort Campbell and out in Texas and all these different states that they go to get these veterans to come, or service members to come back to Kentucky, because there's a buttload of jobs here in Kentucky, and when I had them on the show, you could hear the passion that they have for serving. Because KY Valor started off as, there was three of them that started off with a federal grant, and then when that federal grant ran out, they had to transition their whole model to keep it alive. And it's just like, okay, so you started out a federal grant, which went for, I think, 5 years, I think they said. And then after the federal grant was done, they're like, well, we got to transition, and we got to figure out how we can come up with, how we can keep the funding coming in to continue the mission, which is something that we as veterans, we know all about, is continuing that mission. And it's just like, that's pretty neat. And then InVets, they're getting paid from the state government to continue their mission. And it's just like, man, I wish Kentucky would do that for, KY Valor or other organizations like that here in Kentucky that help service members transition. Because like I said, when I got out in the first time in 2001, I remember turning in all my gear, and I remember all of that, but I don't remember going to any kind of class, whether it was a 1-day class or a 2-day class. I think it was just like, you're not really listening. Okay, turn all your gear in, boom, boom, boom. And then, wait my 30 days, go on terminal leave. And then, 9/11 happened, right before. So I got out August of 2001. Terminal leave up till September 1st. I get my DD-214 in the mail right on September 1st. 9/11 happens. I was like, oh, I'm going back. And sure enough, I went back in, and I was in until 04. And it's just like, and I still don't remember in 04 if there was anything to help, service members that are transitioning out. So yeah,
there should have been, but your command probably didn't make you go.
Probably. So now you do veteran entrepreneurial spotlights. So like JJ with veteran, Veteranpreneur podcast. That's what he kind of does as well. He highlights veterans that are aspiring business owners, because like right now HomeFront Sitrep is an LLC. I think I'm going to kind of go like your route and transition into a nonprofit. That way, tax purpose wise and stuff like that, because we don't bring money in. Like I said, we don't bring money in, and to keep it afloat, you got to pay that whatever renewal fee every year and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to wind up switching it over into a nonprofit, just to dot my I's, cross my T's, because I don't. Yeah.
And there's other things that we could do as a nonprofit, right? That to help bring in funds to help offset costs to whatever that you can't do as an LLC.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things, but
yeah, there's definitely some benefits there. And, I've wrestled with this LLC versus nonprofit from almost the beginning. And I was an LLC for about a year. And then I decided to go the nonprofit route. Well, since I'm converting an existing business, you got to do the long form, which is so much fun. But ultimately, the reason we decided to do this was for the last 2 years or so, people have been coming up to us, just regular everyday veterans, saying, "Hey, can I come on and tell my story?" Well, I'd love to bring everybody on the show. I just don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is create an online recording platform where every veteran and veteran spouse can come on and tell their story. And it'll be kind of guided. Like we'll have a list of questions or whatever, so they can tell a story in within 10 or 15 minutes. Because as we all know, some veterans can talk. So it's trying to limit it to like 15 minutes. And we want to create this sortable database, by every possible demographic and psychographic you can imagine, so that you can sort by Marine Corps, female, Asian, intel officer who served in Desert Storm, and that'll pop up if it exists, but also sort by suicidal ideations, depression, homelessness, PTSD, drug abuse, alcoholism, all those things, because we want people to hear the real stories. We want people to know that they're not alone, that every one of us struggles with something. Some of us have made it through. We've learned to deal and cope with it. Some of us are still struggling. And that's ultimately what we decided we wanted to do. So I was going to start a separate nonprofit. Then I'm like, why don't I just combine this and make it just one organization? And so we're in the process. We've submitted the paperwork. I'm hoping by Christmas to have the official status. And, we got our first board meeting coming up. I've been blessed to have a bunch of people that want to be a part of the board, a bunch of people that want to be part of the advisory board, and for me, I went after people that I believed had the right heart for the veteran. I don't care what your expertise is. I don't care what you're not, if you're bringing money to the table or whatever. If I can surround myself with people who truly care, we're going to be able to move mountains, So that's ultimately what I was going to do. And that's the reason why we're doing the nonprofit route, because we want to be able to continue to help and reach more, get people out there telling their story, and then, build some of those strategic partnerships where, like you come on and tell your transition story, and we want it to be veteran and veteran spouses, because the spouse goes through the transition too.
Sometimes it's harder.
Yeah.
Because you may get licensed in North Carolina and then transition back to Kentucky. And now you have to either get relicensed or go through more schooling to get the same accreditation. Right. And it's like, ooh. So sometimes it's harder on the spouse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, then, but you come on, you tell your story, then we can turn around and point you over to Operation Song and say, go over there and tell your story in a song. Yeah. And then, if you're looking for resources, we can have a list of resources that we've vetted, that we've talked to, that we trust, And we're not trying to compete with anybody. We're not trying to, put other people out of business. I'm not about that. We're all trying to help. And if you're truly trying to help, I'm there to support you. We all know there's some organizations out there that are like that used car salesman selling 30% interest on a, Camaro to the privates. But, I just stay away from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And surround myself with the people who truly care. And you just can't go wrong in my book.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. When I'm looking to bring guests on the show, I do a deep dive. I look at the Google reviews. I look at everything, the 990s, just because I want people that are doing it for the right reason. If you're doing it because if that's your first thing, then you're doing it for the wrong reason. If you're looking to boost your public profile to get out there, whether you want to run for whatever later on, if you're doing it because you want to boost your public profile, then you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't mind being behind the scenes. Like when I worked at nonprofits, I didn't take credit for anything. I could care less. As long as that veteran got taken care of, that's all that mattered to me. And there's unfortunately over 20 years, I've seen some nonprofits out there that could be amazing if the founder would get out of the way, because it's about the founder. It's not about the veterans they're helping. And then, there's board members as well that it's all about them and what they're doing. And it's just like, come on, man. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about the veterans that we're helping. And
should be.
Yeah, it should be. It should be. And so, that's
the other thing is I don't want to work for the company. Like, I'm not planning on being the CEO. I probably going to wind up having to be the volunteer CEO as we get started, but I want to hire somebody and pay them real money to come in here and run the organization. I want to be on the board. I want to continue to podcast as long as, I think I'm making a difference. And eventually they'll tell me in my face for radio to get off the air, and I'll go, okay, and go find someone pretty like Gunny, to take my place.
Yeah, definitely. I'm right there with you. So one of my good friends, Donald Bramer, he runs he co-founded the American Freedom Fund out in DC. And the way they set up their board structure, you could only, so you start out, like say you start out as the CEO, right? You could only do that for 2 years. And then after 2 years, you have to switch positions. And then I think it got to the point where Don is now on the advisory board. He's not on the main board itself. He's on the advisory board, which is super cool because, you got people that run nonprofits and they stay the CEO founder for 20 years and it's about them. Well,
and they don't listen to certain insight, right? So you when you started the organization, you had a vision. Okay. But the vision has stayed here over the past 20 years. You get somebody else in there, or even just open up to suggestion. Now your vision goes from here to here. Yep. And the more and more people, because everybody has different thought processes, everybody has a different way of doing things. And now instead of being here, now you're, you know what I mean? And that's the only true way to grow. Any organization is I'm not going to say a revolving door, but different people being in those positions of leadership that are affecting decisions.
Yeah, you need fresh blood, and I'll be completely honest. That's the hardest thing for me to accept in my head. I created this. This is my baby. But I've made the decision to make this a nonprofit, which means it's no longer my baby. And so the one thing that I'm coming to terms with is you can never take the title of founder away from me. Right. And I can always serve in the capacity of, I was, obviously in line with the board and the CEO's vision, but I can always serve in the capacity as the founder and be associated with the organization, but I agree with you. At some point the founders, they gotta rotate around. They can still be on the board. They can move the advisory board. They can be an ambassador, whatever the case.
You can still be an executive director. Yeah. And if they're not going in the way that you feel it should be, you guide them back on track, right? Yeah. But you don't have to have a voting voice. You don't have to be on a board or whatever, but you can still be the executive director, founder, whatever you want to call it, and still guide the bus, right?
Yep.
Instead of driving it.
Yep, I agree.
Man, this has been wonderful conversation. I can't believe an hour is already gone really that quickly, Gunny.
It's because you talk too much, Willis.
Listen here. Hey, get your fishing pole.
By the way, my show's only 30 minutes.
So Willis pointed to me, right? So Willis, when you serve any period of time and you have the experiences that like people like myself and Shawn have had, you can go longer than 10 minutes.
Dang. Wow. Dang. Listen here, Gunny. I know where you live. But no,
I'm not going to be home the next 3 weeks, so
I know.
Have at it.
Dang it.
You can come finish my deck.
Yeah, I can come help you do that. Listen, Frank is like lurking. Frank is lurking out there. But no, man, this has been super cool. Look, the link, everybody, the website is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's VET S.O.S podcast.com. Go check out the VET S.O.S podcast. If you listen on Amazon, wherever you listen, Spotify, wherever, go give them a follow, listen to them, go find them on Facebook. They're on Facebook as well. Go check out what they're doing. I can't wait to see your other shows and how you keep growing. And I can't wait to be on your show July 12th. That's when I'm going to be on your show.
See, he went through the entire time you were talking and found that email.
No, so my question is whether or not he actually sent me his stuff.
I think I did. I can't remember. I think I did, but
if you did, there's that reply thing, and it'll show your email above or below. So if it's not there, then you didn't do it.
Well, I just searched his name, and so I have to go back. If not, you will have it tonight, Shawn. I'll send you my headshot and my bio, and then I'll make sure I log into Riverside FM and create a free account, because I think that's what it says for me to do. I think I already got one.
Yeah,
I think I already got one from somebody else's podcast. I think Clifford Ballman's podcast was Riverside. The Mental Health Warriors podcast, maybe. But anyway, if not, I'll have it done. Frank, and I don't know if William Stevens is still in here. I'm going to link you guys up with Shawn via email. So you two authors, and I'm going to do Betsy Ross as well. I don't know if you've heard of the Fight series by Betsy Ross. It's a phenomenal read. It's 4 books, or you can get the one big book, and it's a phenomenal read. So I'm gonna link all of you guys with you, Shawn. That way we can get you some authors. That way, up to you for your show.
All right, and likewise, if there's anybody that I've talked to that you want an introduction to, just let me know. I love the fact that people are out here trying to give back. And let's be honest, we're doing it because we want to give back, but we're also still doing it because it's fun. I never imagined how much fun I was going to have podcasting. I probably laugh more during the interviews than I do on just a daily basis.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just having a ball, and hopefully that comes through, and hopefully it's meaningful for the audience, because I want to be value added. I don't want to be just putting out stuff to put out stuff, because like you guys said earlier, it's not about me. It's not about you guys. It's about helping people. And so hopefully we're value added, and, we'll keep doing it as long as people are listening. We're having fun doing it.
Yeah. We do it even when nobody listens. So, I mean, it's just,
no, I love it. And I'm going to keep doing this until I'm dead and gone, 6 feet up, as long as I know the potential that I could reach one veteran a day, then that's where I'm at. my nephew's deployed right now, and they listen to our show over there where he's at.
Nice.
And it's super cool to see, the reach that we're reaching out there, and how Gunny's story or my story or your story might be able to reach that veteran and say, huh, maybe I can do that, or hey, I'm not alone. So that's all that matters to me. So,
oh yeah.
But if somebody wanted to get in touch with you before we drop you down in the green room, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So they can send us a request through the website. We have a contact us link on there, or through LinkedIn. Shawn Welsh 00 is my what do you call it? Handle,
LinkedIn
I guess.
profile.
But yeah, it's just reach me there. I'm probably on LinkedIn more than anything else. We have all the social media platforms. It's at VET S.O.S podcast is the word for all of them, including YouTube. But I don't interact a whole lot on them other than LinkedIn. So until I can hire me a social media person.
Right.
And they're expensive.
Yeah. And I'm a dinosaur. So
yeah.
We all are dinosaurs, because Gunny said almost 30 years. And I'm like, God. And I was like, June 4th, 1997, we were on those yellow footprints.
Yep.
I'm like, holy shit, we're old.
My 30-year high school reunion was 2 years ago. When I got that email, I was like, whoa.
That's not for me.
What is this?
I'm dreading that email.
Oh yeah,
it's
an eye opener.
Yeah.
Nobody has an email address to get me those emails.
Well, so I created a Facebook page for our high school class of 1997, and there's
you're just a baby.
Yeah, I am. But anyway. But yeah, so guys, go to the website, vetsospodcast.com. If you want to get in contact with them, hit the contact button, send the information that way. What are you laughing at?
Frank says I had been in for 20 years by then.
Oh, God. We love you, Frank. We love you, buddy.
Frank enlisted before we were born.
Yeah. I would even a glint in my daddy's eye. Might not even been in his loins yet.
No.
Oh God. Anyway, go to vetsospodcast.com. Connect with them there. Go to LinkedIn, connect with Shawn there, and follow all of the SOS podcast on all the social media platforms. Shawn, thank you again for coming, hanging out with us. If you want to wait in the green room, where me and Gunny's going to close out the show, and we'll chit chat a few afterwards.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, guys. This was an absolute blast.
Yeah, thank you.
Sir. How cool was that, Gunny?
We got so off freaking topic. He started talking about Army, Navy, and stuff as a kid, and got me all excited, and we just went off the rails from there. But no, I mean, they're doing some great things over there in the VET S.O.S podcast, and we'll continue to do so, especially with the growth and doing their new show, just to get some fresh faces and people in there to talk about their life events, their story as service members, and it's all about helping that one veteran, reaching that one veteran. And I say veteran, hell, it could be a police officer listening that has gone through some traumatic stuff that they think they're the only ones, and something that somebody says on that show, they just might resonate with them, and it just might be that one thing that prevents them from unaliving themselves.
Yeah, from starting a 9mm or something. Yeah, man, I love their mission at the VET S.O.S. I wish when we got out, we had something that helped us transition, because literally I didn't know what I was doing when I got out the first time. I bounced from job to job, and then of course got recalled back in. And after I got out the second time, I had a job, but like I said before, I never felt like I fit, like it wasn't a good fit for me. And I had a couple of jobs, and I tried to get on the police department and didn't get on the police department. And so, those are things that I've talked about, and that's part of that transition, that they do that on the VET S.O.S podcast, is help veterans or service members transition out and find that not saying purpose, but find that
a direction,
direction.
yeah.
Because I mean, I've been out since 2004 and I'm still finding my direction. I don't think I've fully tapped into where I want to go in life. I think I'm there. I think I'm on the edge. I'm on that precipice of it, but
Yeah.
I'm not there just yet. And
Dude, I mean, mine found me.
yeah.
I didn't find it. Well, I say that. So I was introduced by a Gold Star dad of a guy that I served with, and through Warrior Weekend, my purpose has found me, right? And becoming a member of the skydive team and doing everything we do through the skydive team, and being part of other nonprofits, and helping guys and girls like me. And you watch that transition in their facial expressions from the day that they check into the event, and then by day 2.5, day 3, a switch gets turned on, and that facial expression of, should I be here? I feel as though I shouldn't be here, to, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. I want to come back. I want to do this some more. How can I get involved? And it's just that watching that switch come on in that person makes you realize that you are in it for the right reasons, right? Yeah. At the end of the day.
Yeah. No, I love it. And like I said, I'm gonna continue to do this podcast because, for one, it's my therapy. For two, I get to know, I know that there's veterans out there that listen to our show, and like prime example, Doc. I'm just gonna leave his name as Doc. He talks to me every day about his journey, because Doc was home ridden for 10 years. He couldn't leave his house. And then, he started doing equine therapy, and then he got introduced to me, and we, he's a Navy corpsman. I'm a Marine. We're automatically going to have that bond, even though he was a Desert Storm vet and I was later on. We still have that bond. And
doesn't matter. That green side Navy, man. It's whether they were your corpsman or not. There's that bond, because it's just that. It's the Marine Brotherhood. It's not the Navy Brotherhood. It's the Marine Brotherhood, because there's something different about a green side corpsman and a blue side corpsman.
Yeah. And Doc tells me all the time, man, he goes, I love what you and Gunny and you guys are doing on the show. I love the nonprofits. And he's been to a few of the nonprofits that we've talked about here on the show. And, it's helped him progress in his journey. And that's what it's all about is, if there's a nonprofit out there down in Florida or Montana or Utah or Iowa, wherever they are, and they help veterans across the country, we're going to find them and we're going to highlight them. So, somebody in Maine might say, well, I want to travel down to the panhandle of Florida to Project Hope, where they rescue horses. And then in turn, they do equine therapy for veterans and their families, even though there might be something closer to them in, Maine, but they like the mission of, Project Hope. And they like, so that's what it's all about, is highlighting the mom and pop grassroots nonprofits out there that still care about the veterans. So, but it is that time of night, Gunny.
It is, man. I can't believe it's been an hour and almost 8 minutes already.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's you, sir.
Yeah, man. You're not alone. You still have worth. You still have value. Surround yourself with people that are going to build you up and not tear you down. And don't let the dark days win.
And this just fits right there with what Gunny was just saying. In the silence of your struggles, remember, though unseen, you are deeply held in the hearts of others. You are not alone. Man, it's just so powerful, because, Gunny and I, we lost track for many years there. And
20. I mean, I'll say it was over 20 years.
For 20 years.
But the joys of the Book of Face, right?
Yep, the joys of Book of Face. And we got back together, and now it's like we're like peas and carrots again.
Had to break like peas and carrots.
Yeah. But anyway, hashtag be somebody stranger. We say this all the time. We as humans, we're more apt to talk to a complete stranger than the ones we love the most. So if you're out and about and you see somebody they're having a bad day, go up to them, say, "Hey, how you doing?" And if they give you the red flags, "I'm okay, I'm hanging in there, I'm living the dream," ask the next hard question. "Hey, how are you really doing?" Because you never know what they got going on there in their head. And it could be a 5-minute conversation, could be a 5-hour conversation, but you could possibly save that person's life or just make their day. And sometimes that's what they need. They don't want to be fixed. They just want to be listened to or be heard. Gunny, this is you.
Yeah. And reach out to your people. You know who they are. Nobody can go that this alone. Right. And, just like the saying says, two broke things don't make it right. Two wrongs don't make it right. Two broke people aren't going to fix each other because you're both going to feed off each other's pains.
Yeah.
So yeah, reach out to your people, and find somebody that's going to build you up. You are cared for, you are loved, whether you think you are or not. You have guys and girls that you served with that still want to see you tomorrow. So reach out to the people in your village.
I want to give a big shout out to our partners, Heroes Media Group, Wreaths Across America Radio, Military United podcast streams, and at Elite Graving and KY Valor coins or Valor coins and pins. I don't know why I said KY, but Valor.
You were talking about KY Valor earlier, so you just kind of mixed it up there.
Mixed them together. Valor coins and pins with Brent Casey. And then also Same Flag, SameOath.com. Go give them a check out. Small veteran-owned T-shirt company in Texas, in Katy, Texas. Matt and Becky Johnson, amazing people. Matt they're just awesome. Their shirts, when you order a shirt, a percentage of that goes to 2 different nonprofits that they have listed. One's a K9 program, and I forget what the other one is off the top of my head, but a percentage of the shirts go there. We also have a shirt on there. If you go to co-branded, 25% of all sales is at the end of the year will come back to HomeFront Sitrep. And what Gunny and I are going to do, we're going to create a wheel online with all these different nonprofits, spin that wheel. Whoever it lands on is who's going to get that money that year. And that same thing goes with Elite Engraving as well. If you go to their website, you could see our HomeFront Sitrep hat there. We're going to get 20% of all sales. And we're going to do the same thing with that. So we're going to have 2 different organizations that's going to be getting that money from us. And then HomeFrontSitrep.com, you can actually go to both of those websites right from our website as well. So go check out HomeFrontSitrep.com. Other than that, Gunny, I think that's it, my friend. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're good. 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday is our tip of the spear for the month of June before we roll into the 4th of July holiday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's going to be a good one. We're going to possibly talk about things that are going on in the Middle East, maybe.
Some current events.
Yes,
I'm sure that will be brought up for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be as well. But like we always say on HomeFront Sitrep, stay safe out there. We got
your 6.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your 6.